Hey, Nicholas with the Backyard Charters here with another reaction. This time we're going to be reacting to Mandalorian Season 3 trailer. The hype is so real. Um, I'm just excited. I am super excited. This is just, what? Whoa. Um, I love The Mandalorian. Um, when it comes to ranking my Star Wars, it's New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. I'm sorry, that's my order. I know Empire Strikes Back is a better movie, but that's the order I put it in. And right after Empire Strikes Back is Mandalorian. Um, and I think I'm going to put season 1 first and then season 2 second. I know a lot of people feel like season 2 was more hyped, but to me, season 1 is my real hype. Um, there's just the way it blew me out of the water. Book of Boba Fett was a really step down. And the two episodes that were kind of your Mando and Luke with Grogu and those were great. Those were excellent. The final episode where it was like Mando working, that was so close to good and yet so bad. But I'm really hoping that Mando season 3, because ever since Book of Boba Fett came out, it's it's kind of a double thing. You had the whole stuff with Gina Carano happen, which kind of like immediately happened after the Luke Skywalker and all that, and it just deflated the fandom because I felt like now the fandom is very critical of the Mandalorian. They're very critical of Baby Yoda. They're very critical of just the whole thing. They're it's this, it's that, it's this is it's not cinematic enough. It's this, and some of those people were complaining before, but I feel like now everybody's agreeing. Everybody's nodding their heads and going yes. And I think a lot of that is because they're upset with Disney over Gina Carano because there was a clear distinction between how The Mandalorian was doing fan service and how the sequel trilogy handled the fans. And so everybody was kind of lopping on a lot of praise to that, and they were saying good things, and then that happened. Okay, what do they follow that up with? They follow that up with the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett had some laughably bad scenes. It was basically a mockery of Mandalorians. They basically built Boba Fett up in the episodes he showed up in Mandalorian as like he was that guy that you remember from the EU that you were like, man, this guy is the coolest. He's extreme. He's this, all that. And they were like, yes, he is that guy. And then Book of the Boba Fett show comes out, and it's like, no, he's not that guy. And they really just watered down his character in that, and then had laughable antics with the Mod Squad, and even with like Din, like when he's fighting the Rancor, and he's like, "Dink" to helmet. It was funny once when he did it like a couple of times. It was like, this is just so bad. That's just so corny. When Mandalorian has consistently been so cool. So that deflated the series. Then you had Deborah Chow, who was like everybody that was attached to the Mandalorian, like Bryce Dallas Howard, Deborah Chow, Robert Rodriguez. Like these people were like universally praised. Like, oh, this group, this is the group we want to do Star Wars. Robert Rodriguez, a accomplished director, got his own show, Book of Boba Fett, and it was that Deborah Chow gets her own show, and Kenobi, and what do we have? This whole plot with Reva, and there's just a lot of things that people have issues with, and you have like a whole Scooby Doo moment when young Leia is like in Kenobi's thing, and they're like somehow making it through a whole room full of Imperial officers, and none of them can tell that there's like a little kid scooting in his trench coat. It's just laughably bad. Vader is stopped by a small bonfire. Oh, well, I guess I can't walk around. They're gonna get away. He's being carried by the slowest droid in the world, but I guess he's going to get away because fire gives me bad memories. Like, don't get me wrong. Once again, there are cool moments in that show, but it's such a dip in quality. So now we've had two really bad shows, and then we've had Andor, which is a completely different flavor. Andor is very slow. It is not heavy on the references. So, and Book of Boba Fett, all that, like, it got even more. But, like, when you're watching The Mandalorian, you're seeing starships that you're familiar with. You're seeing aliens you're familiar with, and they are everywhere. It is packed full. How are they able to do that? By using the volume to make up for set expense. So you've got expensive sets in Andor, but that means you don't have money for the creatures and the droids and all the starships and all that kind of stuff. All the cool stuff about Star Wars. That's gone. And it's deep and slow plot that is way drawn too out for me. But a lot of people are like, oh wow, this is mature, because what are they coming off of? They're coming off of Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi, which is being done by people who are from the Mandalorian crew, right? So now there's like this retrospective, The Mandalorian sucks. And that's just not the case. We were all hyped. We all loved it. And all these people who are like retroactively like, it was cheap. I enjoyed it at the time, but like looking back, like, are they rewatching it? Or are they going off of the bad taste in their mouth about Gina, the laughableness of these other shows that, like, I laugh. My buddy Ro is constantly Scuttlebutt podcast. He's constantly saying, I'm tired of daddy issues. Grogu doesn't have daddy issues. Loves Mando. They have a great relationship. I don't know. It's not silly and goofy. It was presented very silly and goofy in Book of Boba Fett, how they did the reunion. But we've got that out of the way. So now we can have a better story going forward. And I do think that they belong together. I'm a strong believer on that. So with that, let's get into this trailer.
Our people are scattered like stars in the galaxy. What are we?
Ooh,
what do we stand for?
I like it. The color. Battle for Mandalore. Let's go.
Being a Mandalorian
His sleek
is
new
not
ship.
just learning about how to fight. You also have to know how to navigate the galaxy.
See, he's
That
teaching
way,
him.
You'll never be lost.
Look at that Beskar. Oh, the armor.
So that I may be forgiven for my transgressions.
Look at that city.
This is the way.
Oh, she's coming back.
There's something dangerous happening out there.
March 1st.
By
Ooh.
the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late.
Huh. Jedi.
Hang on, kid.
All those droids. Oh, okay. Mandalorians. Step up, oh freak. Huh.
This is the way.
Whoa. Oh, go Grogu. Mandalorian Season 3. Okay, that trailer was hyped. There's a lot to love. See, I knew it. I know Season 3 is really going to kick it into high gear. Now, let's just go through some things I like. One, seeing references, once again, seeing droids, seeing monkey lizards, seeing all those things. I mean, yeah, I don't hate Babu Freak. He was probably one of the best parts of Rise of Skywalker. But it's one of those things. Okay, well, we have this alien puppet. We got to throw him in there, and you know what? That's okay. I hope it's not specifically Babu Frick, but you know what? That doesn't even bother me, anyways, because I don't care if any of those, like Maz Kanata, any of those characters, if they exist in Star Wars, that doesn't bother me. I'm just not a fan of the sequel trilogy. But those, I did like those, and it's just one of those things where I there's just so much of that I loved. I loved seeing the different Mandalorians, seeing them unique, kind of the different. You could tell that they were from different clans because when you looked at Din's clan, like they all kind of looked the same except for like the armor. And I mean, yes, this one, oh, he's more bulky and heavy, and this one's more this, but they all kind of had the same helmet slit style. But then you saw some that had the sleeker style, some with some color, and those are different houses of Mandalorians. We saw some white Mandalorian armor. That was cool. Seeing them drop ship out of a ship was really cool. Jedi, we saw a bunch of Jedi. So I could see that even though I do find things like Dave Filoni was definitely involved in the Book of Boba Fett, Filoni and Jon Favreau, but obviously not as hands-on and not putting their finger on and running the show like they did with Mandalorian. To some extent, I believe the same can be said of Kenobi. I think that to some extent they have an overarching plot, and even though that takes place before, like maybe we'll see some flashbacks and that will be those, or maybe those will be Luke's students. Maybe that's who we're seeing. I don't really know, but I have a feeling that that's a flashback. Maybe from the palace, maybe from the path, maybe a story about Mandalorians versus Jedi. A flashback to that. Wouldn't that be awesome? To the original Darksaber user. That would be a really cool place to go. I just want to... And then we saw bits of Mandalore, like the epic city on like this devastated planet. How amazing is that? This is just going to take it to the next level. And then you saw like a scene where someone was getting... They're about getting... You think Mando was doing it, and then Grogu comes out on the pod. A lot of people feel like, oh, Grogu's this helpless little cub. He's this little rat that doesn't pull his weight. Yes, Sean Krimmel, I'm referring to you if you're watching. He's the only person that I genuinely, truly feel has a disgust for Baby Yoda, and he does it in a way that is laughable to me. Because he just hates when Star Wars is over merchandised, which is funny because like that's Star Wars when he was a kid was over merchandised, but despite that being what made Star Wars so big, soccer moms weren't buying action figures to play with themselves, but soccer moms today are getting Grogu bumper stickers and Grogu hoodies. And hey, my daughter, I tried to watch A New Hope. Couldn't get her into it. So I said, okay, Return of the Jedi, put that on. Couldn't get her into it. I tried episode 1. I thought, okay, this is supposed to be, fart jokes and young Anakin and stuff. It's supposed to be the gateway for kids. Nope. I tried Rebels. Nope. I tried Clone Wars. Nope. In fact, I only could get her to watch Clone Wars after she saw Tales of the Jedi. Then she became interested in Ahsoka. But it was Baby Yoda. Seeing Baby Yoda, and she has watched all of Mandalorian, all of Mandalorian Season 2, Book of Boba Fett, the episodes that had Baby Yoda in it, she's watched. But, like, she watched Mandalorian episodes that didn't have, like, she's interested in Din. she's interested in all that because of Baby Yoda. And she's got Baby Yoda backpacks. She's got stuffed Baby Yoda. She's got like 5 or 6. She's got Baby Yoda dog toys, Baby Yoda sweatshirts, sweatpants, watches. She sees Baby Yoda. She's gotta have it. And she's into Star Wars to an extent now. I have been able to get her to watch a little stuff. She has, you know, she has ADD and different things, and she's getting her to watch a movie is hard. But she's very much into learning about that stuff, and she wants anything with Grogu. Um, and anything around that, like other shows about that. So the fact that I can get her to watch that, but not even some of the stuff aimed at kids, I have a hard time getting her to watch. But that was her gateway. And she's becoming a little nerd. She's into a lot of things, but that is what she's into. And I think that is cool. I think that is amazing. And just so everybody's clear and making sure that they realize I'm not some OT didn't. I did expose her to The Force Awakens. She does not like Rey. She also, it was a big argument. She did not believe Rey was a woman. She thought Rey was a boy. And that, she got very heated at me. But she made it, I tried fast forwarding a little, we didn't even 15 minutes of that movie. So she watched the least amount of any Star Wars movie that I've exposed her to, which was, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi. I exposed her to Episode 1, and then I tried The Force Awakens. Out of all of those, she had no time for that. Now, maybe that was because at that point she was tired of me trying to make her watch Star Wars movies. But like I said, I plopped on an episode randomly of Mandalorian, showed it to her, and then she wanted to watch everything. And I mean everything. She gobbles it up. And so now when I say, hey, here's something else Star Wars I think you might like, and I show it to her, like I did with Tales of the Jedi, I showed her the Ahsoka episodes, and she was glued to that from the young baby Ahsoka, and then she saw teenage Ahsoka, and then adult Ahsoka, and then she was like, I want to watch more Ahsoka. I said, well, we can watch the Clone Wars cartoon that has a lot of Ahsoka, but she's not in every episode. She's in most of them. And she's like, okay. And she's that. And then we got about halfway through season 1, and then I think the lack of quality on the animation started to grain on her a little bit. Kids today, they are spoiled. I mean, it's like just top quality DreamWorks, Pixar stuff all the time. So something looks a little, she's like, nah. But I'm gonna keep with that. So, but this, like, Grogu pulls his weight. Grogu does stuff, and he did stuff in the previous seasons, and I like that. Like, Mando was teaching him, hey, you need to learn how to fly the ship. You need that. Hey, the thing is, he's 50 and he doesn't know how to talk. It is not like he's in a diaper and Mando's having to change his diapers and stuff like that. He's intelligent. He's a bit ornery. And he's physically, his prowess, like he's a species that's physically developing slower. But I don't have a problem with that, because that's true of when you compare a human and you go, oh yeah, that's just, well, a human takes 5 years to accomplish what a dog does in 5 months. Actually, a dog almost accomplishes in 5 months what a kid takes, 10 years to do when you think about it, because a 5-month-old puppy is already like half grown and is romping around and playing and running and doing a lot of dog stuff. But a 5-year-old kid is still just barely a kid. I mean, it's just amazing at how much faster animals go than people. And it typically runs like the more instinct based and less thinking and emotionally smart an animal is, the quicker it grows. Like goats, deer, all those, like they plop out and are walking within minutes. Puppies, kittens, like they're crawling, they're squirming around, they're so, and then, a couple of days later, now you're having trouble keeping them in. Like they're pretty fast. Humans, we take forever to get to the ability where we can roll over. So the idea that like he's pretty intelligent and he's pretty capable of the force, but like he's just not developed. To me does not seem far fetched for some like big brained, force sensitive species that is developed this way. But that's just my little pet peeve on that. But that everybody gets bent out of shape over that. I think if people had said that he was 20 or 25 years old instead of 50, I think a lot of people would have less. But there's something about 50, because 50 is old for a human, that like throws everybody off. Um, but uh, he's not a baby. We called him Baby Yoda, but he's not a baby. He's not a helpless baby. Anything that can lift up things or face off against the Rancor and win is not a baby. So, um, you know, it's just that. Um, there's just so much like the cinematicness of it, the things. Now there were times when I'm like, okay, that's totally the volume. That's totally, because I know I'm looking for it, because I know people are critical of that. Like there was when the monkey lizard was there, I was like, okay, the background on that looks very fake. But you know what it also looks like? It looks a little grainy. It looks, to me, that feels more like the OT than a lot of these like high end, like lucid, like all these new movies. And Rogue One included. Like Rogue One was one of the nicest ones because they got the actors to all look like people from back then. But one of the things is in a lot of the Rogue One scenes, like things look so fluid, like Avatar, so to speak, that it doesn't feel like Star Wars anymore. If things look too fluid, they don't look grainy enough. And I was just listening to an interview on Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, um, where they were interviewing a fan film that just got mentioned. And he was talking about the filters that he used to make his footage look older. And that's what I feel like some of these newer special effects movies like that we're getting now. Granted, The Mandalorian is accomplishing that by having worse special effects by using the volume, so to speak. Like they're not doing things as high production, so it has that kind of grainy feel to it, so to speak. But that feels more authentic to what Star Wars is than some of these other stuff that are like super CG. Like in the prequels when Jar Jar Binks is supposed to be like this creature and stuff like that, but he's like shiny. And there were other, like Jar Jar wasn't too bad, but there were other characters, little aliens or stuff in the background, especially like A New Hope. When you're in the desert and you see like that animal that they're riding, and he like looks super shiny and slippery. They're out in the middle of the desert, like he should be this dirty, nasty animal with snot coming out of his nose or something. Um, it just shows, and in the volume, what they're accomplishing to me is just no short of amazing. We're getting premium Star Wars TV with that, and fun adventure of the week. We're gonna see a ton of Mandalorian stuff. We saw some Jedi stuff in there that looks cool, and just the ongoing story of Grogu and Mando. And that's what you want. You want those two. I mean, yes, I would be all for in that of the bounty of the month or the week or whatever with the Mandalorian. Din's a cool character. He definitely does great action. But that's not what hooked me. What 100% got my jaw to drop was that moment when he opened the thing and it was Baby Yoda. When it was Grogu there in the little... That is when I was like, 100% I am in this show. Because as much as I was interested in everything, I was like, this should be Boba Fett. That was what I was saying. I love the Mandalorians. I was like, okay, we're going to get a Mandalorian show. But I've been burned by Disney recently. So, the moment they did that, I was like, I am in. I am in. That is what sold me on the show. That was a hook. That was the water cooler moment. And this feeling that people have that should just go away. I don't get that. I don't get that. Like, he is the center. He is the... They're both equally the stars of this show. And when you have something like that, when you have something else where you have two people that are the star of a show, one's a little bit more, but they're both on the cover, and the idea that, well, they should get rid of this half. Like, when they do a sequel like that, it's never good. When they get rid of half of the team, it never turns out good. So, no, Grogu has to be there. If anything, I say, and I mentioned this in the chat, I say they jumped the gun and did Luke too soon. Everybody wanted that. Lucasfilm probably wanted, like, I think that they saw the criticism of the sequel trilogy and like, you know what? Let's give a really good Luke that everybody's talking about and showing. Lucasfilm hasn't forgotten that. And they did that Luke. And that was cool and it was a wonderful moment. And Grogu went with him. But you know what? Maybe that needed to be later. Maybe we needed more time of Mandalorian and Grogu together. But we'll see. We'll see how they work it in with him coming back and whether or not they needed to have that thing. I do feel like, yes, having it happen in Book of Boba Fett, he came back way too quick. But I'm rambling on. This is going to be way too long for reaction. But I am hyped. I am hyped. I cannot wait. I'm enjoying the Bad Batch while I wait, but I cannot wait for March to get here. We got Ant-Man in February, this in March. We got 65 Barbie. I've reacted to so much stuff recently that stuff coming up with Sonic, stuff coming up with Star Wars, stuff coming up with Marvel. I really am super excited about 2023 in entertainment. I was not excited in 2022. I enjoyed a lot of 2020 and 2021 on certain properties, but as it was coming into 2022, my hype for Marvel was way down. My hype for Star Wars was way down. I just had none. I am seeing stuff and I'm like, I can't wait for this stuff to come out. I am hyped. I am back to being okay with being hyped. And I know everybody else isn't there yet. So bear with me if I'm being too positive for you. But I think this is going to be a great year to get back into nerdom. It's not going to win everybody back, but I got a feeling it's going to win me back. So I'm excited. And I hope, whether you're excited about this or not, that me being excited at least made your day a little happier. So with that, I'll catch you all in the next video and tell me what you thought of this trailer down in the comments below.